once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin and I'm here tonight with Justin. How you doing, Juz?
I'm good, Gav. It's good morning, right? Early for you.
It is early for me. We are recording extra early because Justin has decided to take a wander around the countryside of the Netherlands this weekend. So are you looking forward to your trip?
Yeah, I am. Not so much countryside, but
portside, dockside, if you like.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Pretty excited. Benefits of a small country is that like everything is within 90 minutes, so it's pretty sweet.
Big question: are you riding your bicycles?
No, we're driving for this one. But I've seen crazier things. So.
All right. Well, so Tuesday night, Juz. I think this is one of, if not the most interesting game that we have reviewed since we started this pod. The momentum swung several times. It went one way and then the other. I thought it was actually a fantastic game. It was a brilliant game.
Yeah.
What was your overall thoughts on the game? Don't give me what you thought should have happened, could have happened, whatever. But what was your overall thoughts coming out of the game? Was it the same as me, that this was just a fantastic high level game?
Yeah, I definitely feel that way, and I think it like kind of smacked me in the face. I forgot, these European elite nights, you're in the Champions League quarterfinals, mate. This is what it's all about. And we really only see that. I know this is a weaker Bayern team, in recent history, but it's still Bayern Munich, and I think that was made pretty obvious. But, for the neutral, I thought, great game back and forth. In fact, it looks like all the quarterfinal games were pretty intense.
Yeah, that's true. It was, Man City was 3-3, right, at Real Madrid. PSG Barcelona was 3-2 Barcelona.
Yep.
Atletico beat Dortmund 2-1. But this is one in the eye for the people who claim that away goals is that scrapping away goals gets rid of attacking football, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of thought about that as well. Some of the results have just been crazy. The first leg for City Madrid, that was in Madrid though, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
So
that's what I mean. Like, I think part of this, as much as everyone says, well, taking the away, well, not everyone, but there are some people out there who didn't want to see the end of away goals. I'm not one of them. I did want to see the end of away goals.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people say, well, if you take it away, you're going to stop the away team attacking. And I just don't think. I think if anything, the opposite is true. The amount of Champions League nights I was at Highbury and then at the Emirates, where you felt like 0-0 was a good result at home. Like, we always used to say that. Me and Moan and Imran always used to say that going into games. Like, a 0-0 at home is not a bad result. 1-1 is a bad result at home.
Yeah, I agree. I was never the biggest fan of away goals. I just think it was too big of a weight.
Well, especially when one team plays the second leg away and therefore has the opportunity for 30 extra minutes to get an away goal. It never made any sense to me. Like, it wasn't an even shot.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like, whoever plays second has a decent advantage, depending on how you look at it too.
Yeah, the atmosphere, Jazz. We knew it was going to be crackling there. There were obviously no away fans, except the video that's gone around. I don't know if you've seen it or not, of the couple of Bayern fans in the lower tier that got a few slaps when they jumped up when Bayern scored and got thrown out. But there were no Bayern fans there in general, and the atmosphere was on fire before the game. Like, that is the loudest I think that I've ever heard that stadium, and it jumped through the TV how loud that was.
Yeah, I think, just by the fact that this is our first quarterfinal since 2010, it's Bayern Munich, a big European powerhouse, but I also think being predominantly 99% Arsenal fans too helped. But yeah, it was insane. Very loud. Pre-game especially was wild.
I want to touch briefly on what you said earlier about this Bayern Munich team being weak, because that has been the narrative, and I bought into it as much as anybody. When you look at it, I don't know how true that is. Leverkusen are putting together a season for the ages. We are now on the 11th of April and they haven't been beat in any competition. They haven't lost a single game all season. That's insane.
Yeah.
Up until the first or second week in February, whenever it was Bayern Munich went to Leverkusen and got beat, Bayern Munich were 2 points behind a Leverkusen team that hadn't been beat in any competition.
Yeah.
Bayern have given up on the Bundesliga. They're not 16 points behind because Leverkusen are 16 points better than Bayern. They're 16 points behind because they have given up. They've given up on their manager. They've given up on the Bundesliga. The Champions League is a completely different kettle of fish, and I think we almost got rope-a-doped a little bit here, because I'm telling you now, that front four of Bayern, of Kane, Sane, Musiala, and Gnabry, is miles better than anything we have faced in the Premier League. Miles better. That front four starts for every single Premier League team, including us.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're front heavy though, right? I mean, isn't that the thing?
I mean, they are front heavy for sure, but like that front four terrorizes the Premier League. Absolutely terrorizes the Premier League. So I think that a lot of and we did say that before the game, by the way. We said last week about how good that front four was. But I do think it gets overblown. Bayern are in decline. Bayern are this. Bayern are that. Bayern have had they've had some injury problems, but that's not why. They've given up. That's why they're that far behind in the Bundesliga. They are not really 16 points worse than Leverkusen. They've just thrown in the towel.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think it's mostly to do with their Bundesliga performance, but no arguments at all from me about that front four. It's more stepping back. I think you've got
the centre backs are weak. Let's be fair.
And then you've got
the centre backs are weak. Dyer, De Ligt, they don't start for any team in the top half of the Premier League. Probably they are poor centre backs. Upamecano's poor. They do like the Japanese guy that they signed, but is he Chinese? Japanese? I can never remember.
Kim, right?
Kim.
Yeah.
They do like him a lot.
I think he's Korean,
but he's Korean. Yeah, but he's been out for a while. But they do like him. But the other three, and I don't know enough about him to say one way or the other, but the other three are poor centre backs, and that is where you can get at this Bayern team.
Yeah, not only that though, I think Davies, while an incredible player, he's been down a bit. Kimmich has been down a bit.
Well, there's two players that want to leave. Do you know what I mean? Like Davies is going to be going. Kimmich has fallen out with Tuchel, like everybody falls out with Tuchel. But these European nights are different. And I think when you're in knockout competitions, this was always going to be the best version. We got the best version of Bayern on Tuesday night. Bayern could not play any better than they did. We had a mad 25 minutes, I think, in the first half, which could easily have cost us that tie. But I don't think Bayern could play any better than they played. That is them at their best.
Yeah, they definitely jumped up a few levels, being a big Champions League night for sure. And I thought, I was pretty impressed with them overall. All
right, so let's start with the lineup, Juz. We both said it was 50-50, right? Whether Martinelli come back in for Jesus. Personally, I think it was. I think Arteta had a very, very bad night before the game started. Right, I just think he got this massively wrong. I don't think leaving Jesus out of the starting lineup was the right move. Now, we know Jesus is carrying an injury. Jesus himself said he can't play without pain at the moment. Whether it's just that Jesus can't handle the 2 games, I don't know. But if that's the case, he should not have started at the weekend. But Jesus, for me, should have started this game. You can argue about where he should have started, but I think Jesus should have started this game. And the other one, the decision was Kiwior. And this absolutely stunned me, seeing Kiwior's name in the starting lineup. It absolutely shocked me. And this reminded me of some of the early Arteta games against Pep and Man City when he went completely galaxy brained and beat himself. I mean, just to peel back the curtain a bit, this is what I said to you and Pat in our WhatsApp chat before the game started, right? I said, I'm shocked Kiwior starts. That's an inexplicably bad decision. He was poor against Man City. The game and the level got to him. I'm really surprised we're playing a backup centre-back at left-back when two of the three players ahead of him are sitting on the bench. This is the thing for me with Kiwior, right? There's been a massive misreading of what's happened over the last few months. Kiwior came in as emergency cover and did great in the circumstances. Somehow, that's been interpreted as Kiwior has been great. They're two completely different sentiments that mean completely different things.
That's
and
fair.
I feel like Arteta almost bought into the Twitter narrative.
Obviously now with hindsight, it looks a really shocking decision. I was listening to what Clive had to say about it, and it kind of aligned with how I was feeling about it as well, which is getting your less attacking, stronger defensive option in that left back spot. Now, again, now the game's over, it looks a really bad decision, but I could kind of see where he was coming from initially with it. But it does feel like one of those things that just it was overthought, right? Like it was overthought.
Yeah, I've got massive respect for Clive Palmer for what he says. I think he's an incredibly intelligent guy, and I love listening to him talk about the game. I think he got this one wrong. And, one thing I can never agree with Clive on is he always says starting 11s don't matter. And I think it's patently false. I think it's wrong. I do think it's important to have a squad. I think it's important to have impactors coming in off the bench. But I think your starting 11 does matter, because if all goes well, that's your team you're going to have out there for 3/4 of the game. Yeah. So I think the starters do matter. And I would like to put this narrative to bed now that Kiwior is some massive upgrade on Zinchenko defensively, because he's not.
I don't think so either.
There is this myth out there with Zinchenko that gets perpetuated a lot, and Arsblog did it as well. Or when Zinchenko and I came nervous, I become nervous, and he didn't change the game. Zinchenko absolutely changed this game when he came on at half time, and we'll get to that when we do the second part of this game. But I just think there's some narrative out there that's completely wrong, and it's being fed into. And I don't understand. I mean, those words that I said to you in our WhatsApp chat, Juz, that was before the game kicked off, right? This isn't hindsight. That was before kickoff. I saw this coming a mile off. And I think a lot of people saw this coming a mile off, because we understood that Kiwior is what he is. He's a backup centre-back that performed admirably when he was asked to fill in, because the three players who would play in that position were injured. And I just think it's been interpreted completely wrong. And I am just shocked that Arteta fell for it almost. And I think it was galaxy brain. And I think before kickoff, Arteta just got this completely wrong.
Yeah, it's tough, because I think not only is Kiwior's ability overstated, but I also think it goes the opposite way with Zinni as well.
But it's also, and Clive made this point, and he was absolutely correct on it. It's also a horses for courses situation, in the fact that when Kiwior has looked good, we've played almost four centre backs, and that's not how we played last night. Kiwior has looked better when he's been able to get in the box and defend the box. I'm not talking about Sheffield United. I'm not talking about West Ham, them games, because it didn't matter. You could play me or you at left back in that game, and we'd have been absolutely fine. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in proper games. The Man City game, we defended our 18-yard box. We played with four centre backs, and we had the two wingers coming back as almost wing backs. That is fine if that's how you're going to play it. Now, Kiwior, I thought, got roasted a couple of times in that and was poor in possession, but he defended the box really well. Last night was not a game to defend our box. So to me, I don't know. I just found that decision baffling.
I think the most telling thing to me, and I believe you brought this up as well, but I'd have to go back through our conversation, but what shocked me the most about it wasn't even anything Kiwior necessarily did. It was that it was clear his teammates didn't trust him on the ball.
Yeah, I've actually got that in the notes to bring up before he comes off, but I mean, we can discuss it now. Martinelli was absolutely nullified by the fact that Kiwior played left back, because Gabriel would get the ball, and where he would normally go outside and then it would work its way up to Martinelli, he'd turn to go left, see Kiwior, and turn back to the right and go back to Saliba or back to Raya again and again and again. And Kiwior had to come off because I think in 15 minutes in that game, he completely lost the trust of his teammates completely. I don't think it started that way, but I think 15 minutes in, they were looking and going, we can't play the ball out there.
Yeah, and see, that's kind of why it's another area of a big mistake, I think, for Arteta to make that call, because this isn't just going to be a one-game scenario. I think this is going to affect Kiwior's confidence, but also like his teammates' confidence in himself as well, in him as well as a player. And
well, that's got to be the last time we see him at left back if Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, or Timber are fit. It has to be. Like, he's not playing there against Villa. I don't see it. He should never have played there last night or Tuesday night. He's definitely not playing there again as long as someone's fit.
Yeah, I think so as well. And, who knows what this is going to mean for his chances at like center back if Gabriel goes down or whatever. But yeah, I think the whole Kiwior at left back thing, if anybody else is fit, he's got to be fourth.
Yeah, I don't think it will affect that too much, to be honest, Juz, because let's be fair, Kiwior was this bad against Fulham. And Arteta's response wasn't to take Kiwior out and never use him again. It was to adjust the way he used Kiwior. I think he likes Kiwior, and I'm not saying Kiwior's a bad player, right? I don't want to go in on Kiwior saying he's a terrible player. I'm not convinced that he's at the level to play for us. I'm really not, but that's not what this is about. This is about the fact that what Arteta's been really good at since he got here, really, is putting players in a position to succeed. He did it with Partey. He adjusted where Partey was playing. He put him in a position to succeed. He did it with Granit Xhaka. He put him in a position to succeed. He's done it with Jorginho. He's been really good at putting players into position where their qualities are emphasised and their deficiencies are minimised. And I think Tuesday night he badly let Kiwior down in that scenario. He put him up against Sane one-on-one, which is a tough task for anybody. And of course, Zinchenko got beat a couple of times by Sane when he come on. Anyone is going to get beat a couple of times by Leroy Sane. But I just think he absolutely put him in a position to foul on Tuesday night, and that's what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the occasion was just too big, and I don't really have too much more to add. There's no point in going any deeper on that. Let's look at the game, because again, I really thought this was a fantastic game. I thought it was a real Champions League knockout tie. It was teams of really high quality. There was nervousness, there was edginess because of what was at stake, and I thought we basically saw everything. 7 minutes in, we saw Saka rob Davis when they were trying to play out from the back. Kai ends up bringing it down on the edge of the box, playing it to Martinelli. Martinelli's left foot shot whistles just past the post. Neuer was well beaten. He wasn't getting anywhere near that. And that was kind of the first little warning for them. And in them opening exchanges, Saka was absolutely roasting Davies. They brought Gnabry back to try and double up on him. Davies got the booking, of course, which keeps him out of the second leg, Juz. Yep. Which is, again, this isn't Davies from the past, but I think any time that, a player of that quality misses, it's a positive. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Davies is one of the few players that can stop Saka, to be honest with you. I just think Saka was pretty much unplayable in the early parts of that game.
He was, yeah.
Last night. I thought he was absolutely excellent. 12 minutes in, Odegaard plays a brilliant ball over to Saka. He takes on Davies, and the ball clips Davies' heel. It wasn't a stop as such, but it clipped his heel. And so Havertz wins it back, plays it to White into Saka. Saka with a beautiful turn. Like that turn, he didn't even touch the ball. It was such a nice turn to open his body up. And he finds the corner. Just that's got to become his trademark, right? Like Saka scores all sorts of goals, but when you're looking at this one, you're thinking, bro, you need to be doing that 18 times a season.
Yeah, it's like comparing it to Kiwior, where we've already said the occasion was too big. It's like I feel like Saka just he took on all that energy of the game and was just an animal. And yeah, I mean, just a beautiful play, nice little goal. I'd love to see that kind of stuff more from him, to be honest.
Yeah, me too, because he's obviously got that in his locker. And,
Yeah,
I've said all along, right? He needs to be our Salah. If we're going to win stuff, we need Saka scoring 30 goals a season. He's got 18 so far this season. He has to get in the high 20s if we're going to win anything this season. I think if we end the season with Saka on 22 goals, we win nothing. Nothing at all. Saka needs to be on 25 plus for us to win anything this season. I don't see any way around it. He's our main man when it comes to goal scoring. I think Ødegaard's our best player, but I think Saka is, for the goal getter, the finisher, Saka's our main man for that. And like we said, he started this game brilliant. He was absolutely unplayable. And for all the talk we've had about Kiwior and Arteta getting it wrong from the start, this game could have been really different, because 3 minutes later, Kai wins a knockdown on the edge of the box. He plays a brilliant pass through to White. White's clean through, staring at the White and Neuer's eyes. And, I mean, this is a centre-back, right-back, who finds himself through on goal. And he kind of finished like it, right? Like, there was no composure. And I'm not blaming Ben White for this at all, because, again, I thought Ben White was excellent again on the night. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. But he just puts his foot through it. And unfortunately, it's just straight at Neuer. I think he could have side-footed it in the corner. He could have tried a chip. He could have tried a million things that I think most of our other players who would usually find themselves in that position would do. But he just puts his foot through it, and it just doesn't come off.
Yeah, shame too, because Ben White is technical enough to find a better option. But I think, like you said,
it wasn't a technical thing, was it? It was a mental thing. It was
mental.
It was oh my God, I'm in front of goal. This isn't where I'm supposed to stand.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think if that goes in, I think we'd started brilliantly. I think we'd started so well. And had that gone in, honestly, I think we could have pummeled them if that had gone in. But on such moments, the big nights turn, right?
Yep.
Because it's less than a minute later where there's a ball over the top. And this is a comedy of errors, this goal. And it actually starts with Ben White winning a header, I think, right? Ben White wins a header and heads it across, looking for, I think, Ødegaard or Havertz on the left. And it gets cut out. And then you get a ball over the top. And and I thought Raya maybe was a little bit jittery on the night. Did you think? I thought the occasion he went a little bit longer than usual. And I thought he looked a little bit jittery. And he was inexplicably high. A situation that, like I thought Kane was probably man of the match, as much as I hate to say it. I thought Kane was absolutely fantastic on the night. But one thing he's not going to do is outpace Gabriel or Saliba. And when that ball goes over the top, Gabriel is in complete control. There is no need for Raya to be there. Gabriel, that ball, when that ball is played, Gabriel and Kane are in the Bayern Munich half, right? It's not. There's no reason for Raya to be that high. If he's standing 5-10 yards further back, Gabriel gets that ball, turns back, knocks it back to him, and bang, we're starting again. Raya being there, I think, completely confuses Gabriel. Completely confuses him. So he gets the ball, and where he would normally look back to Raya, all of a sudden now Raya's standing next to him. So now he can't go back, and Raya's so close to him, and Kane's closing him down, he can't pass to Raya. He does a little turn, and this is where I think it could have been averted. Raya actually backsteps to the right, and I think if Gabriel turns back again, he can knock it to Raya, and Raya can knock it to Saliba, and we go, but they are very close together. Instead, Kiwior's calling for the ball. He's pointing where he wants the ball, and I think he just gets caught flat-footed, right? Gabriel's pass isn't perfect, but I don't think it's particularly bad either, and I think Kiwior had transferred all his weight onto the right side of his body facing his own goal, so the right side's at the touchline. When that ball comes in maybe a yard further inside than it should have been, he just can't get back because he's moved all his body weight onto the wrong side. Sane picks it up, and from then on, it's just a comedy of errors again. And it's players you wouldn't expect. Rice, that ball goes into Goretzka. I don't know why Rice takes that step forward. I don't understand why he does that. It's not something he would normally do. I don't know if he thought that the pass was going to be bad enough for him to intercept. I don't know what it is, but as soon as he takes that step forward, Goretzka's in behind. It's a fantastic pass to find him. He then gets it across to Gnabry. And again, it's a fantastic finish from Gnabry. But Raya is out of position because he's still getting back from the initial move. So I don't think Raya's closed him down quickly enough because he's still trying to get back to where he should be. The ball goes through his legs. And just like that, it's 1-1, a game that we've dominated, we're in control of, and now we're pegged back.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it best. You know, it was basically a comedy of errors, just a bunch of a bunch of things going wrong. You know, from players you don't really expect. I mean, one thing I would say, you know, in defense of Raya is that, you know, this is by far the biggest game, you know, he's ever played in, right? I mean, you know, I know the championship playoffs are huge, don't get me wrong, but like, I mean, Champions League quarterfinals, I mean, he doesn't even have very much international experience. So, I mean,
I think he was excited, basically. I just think he got overexcited.
Yep. That's a good way to say it. Yeah. And yeah, again, going back to Bayern's front four, I mean, you know, great finish from Gnabry, but if you give him those chances, yeah, it's going to happen, you know?
Yeah. And like I said, I think we'd been brilliant to that point. We just missed the chance to go 2 up. And I think this is one of them where the momentum just swings, and the momentum swing is huge. I think the crowd at first reacted like they do, or they have done for the last couple of years when we concede a goal, in that they get up and they start really, really getting behind the team. But I think it got nervier and nervier as it went on.
It definitely felt that way. I mean, even just as like a spectator in my living room, I was getting, you know, nervier and nervier too.
Did you feel like and this is again where, you know what I think of this team, right? I think this is the best Arsenal team that I've ever seen. But it's easy to forget that we are rookies at this level.
Yeah.
Right? We have not been here before. And I think that showed. Arteta has not managed here before. And I think that showed. And I think we went chasing a game, and I don't know if Bayern having no fans in the stadium also contributed to this. It felt to me like we were trying to win the game in the first leg, and that is not how European knockout rounds work. And I think we went chasing in a way that was, I don't want to say irresponsible because it's not the right word, but naive, let's say. I think we went chasing in a way that was naive, and we went flying forward. And we've been so good for the last year because, well, this season really, because we've been so tight at the back, right? We've been so solid. And the 20 minutes after their goal, well, right up until half time, really, felt like the complete opposite of everything that we've been doing over the last few months.
Yeah, it definitely, I look at like last year in the Premier League, and it definitely felt like we had kind of learned from some mistakes last season to this season. And I feel like we're going to kind of deal with the same thing in the Champions League this season and next season, just because there is so much more weight and such difference in the Champions League. And then you look at Arteta's history in knockout competitions has been pretty poor. I mean, you know, he has the FA Cup, but, you know, our Europa League finishes have all been pretty poor. Now we're in the Champions League, and it does look like there's not enough experience both in management and in the side to fully navigate these Champions League fixtures the same way we do in the Prem.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think we'll learn a lot from Tuesday night. I think it's a huge learning moment for this team.
Definitely, yeah.
So we played a little bit of ping pong, and then we get to half an hour, and Sane absolutely skins Kiwior 5 yards inside of our half. Now, Kiwior should be grabbing his shirt at this point. He should be tripping him. He should be doing whatever rather than giving him the entire pitch to run into. You know, I think if he grabs his shirt at that point, he might even have got away without a yellow card because it was so far from our own goal. He's inside the other half. But whatever, I don't care. Take the yellow card. You have to bring him down.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, he lets Sane run past him. Sane runs 50 yards all the way across the pitch. Gabriel doesn't want to dive in. Saliba, I think, gets caught a bit by surprise at Gabriel not making a tackle. By the time he makes the tackle, he's already past him. Penalty. Now, one thing I want to point out here, because this is relevant when it comes to later in the game, Sane is 100% looking for a penalty here. Right? Like, he is looking for that penalty. That is the flimsiest of touch on his foot. And while that is always going to be given, that touch doesn't send him down. Sane goes down because he wants the penalty. He's running across goal. And like I said, with what we're going to talk about in a bit, I think that's pretty important.
I know exactly what you mean, and you know how I feel about the Saka pen call, and I know we'll get to it. I was okay with it being a penalty.
I think it's 100% a penalty. I'm not saying it's not a penalty. All I'm saying is he's looking for that and he wants to go down. He's not looking to do anything other than go down in that situation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sorry, I thought you were wanting me to compare them already. I guess
no.
The one thing that I will say in that, I think me and probably 99% of other Arsenal fans knew Kane was going to get a penalty in this game.
Oh, 100%. He was always going to score a penalty here. You might as well get it over with.
Yep, it did not surprise me at all. And regardless of whatever happened, I knew it was coming already. And so, it just kind of, but yeah, to your point, I definitely think Sane was looking for the contact.
Were you surprised?
More so than Saka, but
were you surprised that David Raya dived the week before Kane took it?
Yeah.
Like that starter step, that's that effective because Raya is basically already laying on the floor by the time he makes contact. That's the earliest I've ever seen a goalkeeper go.
He did, yep. And again, it kind of comes back to some jitters. I feel like that Raya kind of had all night. I know we'll get there, but it was such a good example. The Gabriel handball in the box. Raya's reaction was my favorite thing all night because he was like, he knew we goofed up there, but there was just so much weird nervousness along the back line that we're not used to seeing week in, week out in the Prem.
Yeah, and like we said, the Kane penalty was inevitable.
Yeah,
there's no way he was going to miss that. And quite frankly, I think when the halftime whistle went, I think Arteta would have been relieved that the halftime whistle went because we did look disjointed.
Yep.
So we get to halftime. Zinchenko comes on for Kiwior. We've already discussed it, but in my notes, I think I said it had to happen because the players noticeably did not want to pass to him. At that point, you've got no choice to withdraw him. So Zinchenko comes on. And I think the second half was a million times better. I think we were a lot calmer in the second half. There wasn't a ton of opportunities. It wasn't end-to-end like the first half was. We were on the ball a lot more. And I just felt a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, I did as well. It did feel like they kind of got all the jitters and the high energy and the magnitude of the situation kind of out of their system in first half. But I also think, replacing our most inexperienced player with somebody like Zinchenko, made a big difference and had a huge calming effect on the pitch as well.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I think the referee had a very good game, apart from 3 absolutely massive incidents. And in every one of those incidents, his decision was to try and affect the game in the least way possible.
I agree, yeah.
The first one he's on, was it 55 minutes, I guess? Kane is backing into Gabriel. This is not an aerial challenge. It's a bouncing ball, but by the time the ball passes Kane, it's below his shoulder height. So this is not an aerial challenge. Kane has a look back to see where Gabriel is, sizes it up, and just swings an elbow at him and makes full contact on the bottom of his chin and his neck. This is the most blatant red card that I have ever seen. This is the definition of violent conduct for me. And I just think the ref didn't want to make the decision on what VAR is doing here. We all know my thoughts on VAR. At this point, I don't even know why it's there.
Yeah, blatant red card for me as well. It all had to do with like the look back for me. He saw him coming, knew exactly where,
he sized him up. He absolutely sized him up.
Yep, good way to put it. And yeah, absolutely blatant. I mean, I really dislike Harry Kane, so I'm a little biased here, and it really isn't even so much to do with his Spurs. Well, I mean, it is, but he's a dirty player, man. He is. I hate the undercutting of the jumping players and aerial duels, but this shit, yeah, absolute red card. It really like made my blood boil.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say any more on it than that. There's no point in keep going over it. We all saw it. We saw it a million times on TV. And again, I think it was just the ref not wanting to make big decisions. He just didn't want to. And we come to the one in, I think, the 67th minute now. Now, this is caused by a pure confusion, right? There's subs being made. There's a goal kick. Raya knocks it to Gabriel. Whistle blows. Subs are on. Whistle blows. Raya knocks it to Gabriel. Gabriel picks it up, puts it down, and takes the goal kick. I didn't even notice this in real time. Honestly, I didn't even notice it. When Tuchel started going on about it after the game, I didn't know what he was talking. When he said there was a blatant penalty the ref missed, I thought he was talking about the Saka incident. And I thought, oh, that's refreshing. A manager, being honest with a decision that went his way. And then I saw this it was probably half an hour after the game by the time I saw this. Uh-huh. And I was like, oh my God, we've absolutely got away with one there. Now, I understand from the ref's point of view why he doesn't want to give that. The Bayern players are saying he said it's a kid's mistake. I'm not giving that in a Champions League quarter-final. And I understand that viewpoint. I would want it, but I also understand why it wasn't given. And again, I think that when you look at it in the context of the other two really big decisions in this game, I can see where he's coming from, and at least he was consistent in not wanting to affect the game.
So I missed this live as well. In fact, I think
everybody did. I think we were talking about it after in another group, and people didn't even know what we were talking about because nobody saw it live.
Yeah. And so it was your message that made me go back and look at it. And yeah, it was crazy. It was one of the, it was bizarre. You hardly ever see stuff like that. Like, you said, like a playground mistake or whatever, a child's mistake. But my problem with it, I sympathize with the ref as well, and I totally get it from like a gamesmanship standpoint. But I also don't like the referee influencing the game that much. I know this would have went against Arsenal, but I mean, it was absolutely blatant and by the rules. And it's really weird that the ref can just make the decision to say, no, I'm not going to give a penalty. This is a Champions League. I just think that's wrong, and that's too. It's not ethical, really.
Well, I think it's another teachable moment, right? Because that's a goal kick that we take a lot. Everybody takes that same goal kick a lot now. And I think Gabriel will be a little bit more aware going forward of his surroundings and what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Part of the reason that mistake happens with Gabriel, Juz, was the subs were being made at the time, right? So, like, we brought on Trossard and we brought on Jesus for Jorginho and Martinelli exactly as that was being taken. And those changes really, like, I thought Zinchenko gave us back control. I thought Zinchenko calmed us down. But these two are the changes I think that really pushed the game in our favour. It was obviously nearly negated by a stupid moment. But in the end, these two subs proved absolutely vital. I thought Jorginho had an ineffective night. And I guess this is the point to talk about this. We both said that we thought there was a chance that Arteta might flip Rice and Jorginho. So Rice in the 6, Jorginho in the 8. In hindsight, I think he would do that. I think it was a mistake to go the way he did it. I thought Jorginho was exposed. He was run past. I thought Declan Rice was absolutely wasted in that role where he was rushing forward and then rushing back. He must have run 10 miles and 7 miles of it must have been wasted. I don't think certainly the second goal doesn't happen if Rice is in the 6 instead of the 8. The first goal I think might have been preventable as well. So give me your thoughts on that and then the substitutions.
Yeah, I definitely think Rice was wasted in the 8. I think this was another point that Clive was making on the most recent Arsenal vision that really stuck with me in kind of needing him to be more of like our anchor, like Rodri, and he was just I think grossly misused in this game, especially considering he's he's arguably been one of our best players this season. I think one of the few 100 million plus transfers that's actually been worth the money. And to no fault of Rice's, I thought he was largely ineffective. And I do think with hindsight that would be switched. I'd prefer just to see Rice sit in the 6 from here on out. I don't think he's a bad 8. I just don't think he's as influential on the game, basically.
I think in Europe, especially in these knockout games, you need to put your players in their best positions. And I think for Rice, that is the 6. I think for these knockout games, Rice needs to be screening in front of that back 4. I think it's, what we do at Villa at the weekend doesn't have to be the same thing we do in Munich on Wednesday night, right? I have no issue at all with Rice playing in the 8 against Villa at the weekend, because Rice is going to play at the weekend. So I have no issues at all with Rice playing in the 8 at the weekend, but then moving to the 6 in Munich on Wednesday night. To me, that is a sensible way to do it. Europe is a different kettle of fish. It is a different game that has different requirements. And I thought that was so obvious on Tuesday night. This is not your average Premier League game, and you have to treat it differently. These are teams, right? We play 2 Premier League games a year right now, where the other team is almost or on our level, right? Man City and Liverpool. That's it. We play 4 games. Other than that, we are easily the better team. Now, the game against Tottenham obviously is a derby. There's other things that come into it. But when you look at the quality of the teams, there are only 2 teams in the Premier League that are anywhere close to our level. This is different because every single team in this competition at this point are at that level. And you saw that on Tuesday night with the games all around. That Man City Real Madrid game, Jesus Christ, I looked at that and all week, since this draw was made, we've all been wanting Real Madrid in the semi-finals. Fuck me. I looked at that Real lineup and then watched them play, and I'm like, maybe we want Man City.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I'm still pulling for Madrid just because it's different, I don't like playing, City 8 times a season or anything like that, but there's not an easy game in that. If we get past Bayern, there's just not. They're both going to be really tough, but still pulling for Madrid just for sake of difference. But yeah, I agree. There's just something different to these Champions League nights that aren't anything comparable to the Premier League. And I think it wasn't this Bayern tie that really convinced me of that. It was the Porto one. We played Porto home and away in a stretch where we were winning Premier League games 4, 5, 6, maybe just 4 and 5. I can't remember, but we were scoring tons of goals against all these Premier League guys. And then we come into a Champions League tie, and Porto's great, huge, historic, but they are clearly a rung below Arsenal, Real Madrid, etc. And they still they played a game plan that was really good, that really stifled us, and it just shows how much of a different level this Champions League is, compared to, like you said, the 17 other 17 other teams we play.
Yeah, agreed. So when this sub was made, Jesus went up top, Havertz moved back into midfield. Trossard was almost a straight swap for Martinelli. We needed something different. We got something different. I thought Gabriel Jesus is really the man that turned this game. I thought when he come on, I thought Havertz was largely ineffective up front. He had a couple of really good moments, especially early. It was him that it was him that won the ball back to play to Ben White for the opener for Saka. It was him that played Ben White through when Ben White hit the goalkeeper. But I thought for large parts, and that might just be because we'd lost our heads, but I thought he was largely ineffective in that first half as a target man option. I said to you a couple of weeks ago, I was ready to see the change, to see Jesus come back in up top. I think Havertz has been great as a false nine, but I am still ready to see Jesus come back in and start. Now, whether he can or not is another matter. I don't know that Jesus fitness-wise can handle this. And I think we'll see, because I think if he's on the bench again on Sunday, that is purely because he's going to start on Wednesday, because I think he will start on Wednesday. I don't know whether it'll be up front or on the left. I suspect it will be on the left. But I think he is going to start on Wednesday. But I am ready to see him up top. I'm ready for Havertz to go back into this midfield role so that Rice can play at the 6. I thought this was our best spell of the night when it happened that way. Just the substitutions, we hit Arteta a little bit for the starting lineup, but I think you have to give him massive credit for the way he adapted in game and the changes and when he made the changes.
Yeah, we've been really critical about his game management, basically, since we started this pod, and rightfully so, I think. But I thought he was very reactive on the night. He didn't wait too long. I thought all the subs were very sensible. Almost all of them had impacted the game in their own way. I think this was a really well managed game from Arteta. Well, I mean, I guess you could argue Partey was pretty rough, and I know you're probably going to want to dig into that.
We will come on to that. Before we get to that, we have the goal. It's a brilliant shift of feet by Jesus in the box. And we've got no one else that can do this in the box like Jesus can. I mean, Trossard a little bit, but Jesus' feet in tight situations are unbelievable in the box. It's a brilliant switch of feet. He completely turns the defender inside out. He plays it to Trossard. And it's the two players you want, because Jesus is the only man we've got that can do that in the box. And Trossard is the only man that I trust to finish like that. I wouldn't trust Martinelli with that chance that Trossard got, but I had no doubt he was going to do that. I've been critical as Trossard as a starter. I don't think Trossard is a starter for this team. But my God, what an impactor he is. I think he's a fantastic weapon to have coming off the bench for stuff like this. He's now scored more goals as a sub than anyone else, I believe, in Europe's top 5 leagues this season. And this shows you why. What a weapon. What a finish. It was a great goal. There were some amazing goals on Tuesday night in both games. And this was right up there.
Yeah, I 100% on Trossard. I don't love him as a starter either, but I do think he's one of the best impact subs playing right now, and I don't think it's crazy to say he might be he is the best finisher in the club. I think it was really nice goal, really nice finish, and I agree Trossard would be pretty much the only one in the squad that I'd trust with that.
Right, let's talk about the sub that you just mentioned. 86 minutes. Thomas Partey comes on. He comes on for Kai Havertz. And this, to me, is one of the worst cameos I have ever seen from a player coming on. Partey has stunk the place out since he's come back from injury. And he misplaced every single pass. The header was ridiculous that set them off. Coman nearly scores when he hits the post after Partey comes on. I said to you guys right after the game, I'm ready just to see Edu pay this guy off and let him leave.
Yeah, it was a really, really bad cameo. I'm tempted just to go grab some tea and let you monologue for the rest of the pod, because I know you could do it. It's odd that I don't think I've ever seen a player be like as good as Partey is, like overall, I mean, and take so long to not be shit after coming in.
You know what though? I just think this is Partey. I don't even think it's an injury thing. Like we discussed this last year after he fell apart after the mistake against West Ham. Partey's highs are incredibly high. Partey's lows are incredibly lows. He is a streaky player, and we forget it because he had such a long spell of being great last year for like 6 months. But for half the time he's been here, he's been injured. For a quarter of the time, he's been shit. And for a quarter of the time, he's been good. And because his highs are so high, we tend to look past the fact that it's not just the injuries. He's been really bad for a big part of his time here. He's giving the ball away. It's just bad. Even, and the Saka penalty, which we're going to get to right now, this comes from what the crazy Partey Twitter accounts have been saying is a fantastic pass by Partey. It's a bad pass by Partey. He's trying to find Jesus, and he's off target. So it goes through to Saka, who then cuts inside on Neuer. So even Partey's best contribution was a mistake.
That one I'm not quite remembering. I'll have to see it again. But I believe it with the night he had. Just really rough. And I honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if we barely see him for the rest of the season.
I don't think we should, but I have a sneaky feeling he might start him at the weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. We'll get onto that in part 2, but yeah, I do think he might start him at the weekend because I think he might want to give. I think Jorginho's going to start in Bayern. I think it's going to be I think basically you're going to see the Brighton team in Bayern. So Zinchenko coming back in at left back and Jesus coming back in on the left wing. Well, that wouldn't surprise me if it was Tomiyasu. I think a lot of it depends on Tomiyasu's fitness. I am questioning Tomiyasu, his ability to play any sort of meaningful role at the minute, because the starting Kiwior was so bizarre that I can only think that Tomiyasu is just not fit enough to give you even 45 minutes. Because I understand bringing Zinchenko on at half time because we're 2-1 down and we needed to, get some calm heads and get hold of the ball. So I understand that. But Tomiyasu not starting, to me, is a real worry about the fitness, because starting Kiwior over him makes no sense.
Yeah, and in the contract extension's like official too, right? I can't remember if the club announced.
Yeah. That was announced last month. Yeah.
I find that whole thing a bit bizarre. And look, I love Tomiyasu, and I think he's a damn good player. I think he's really surprised me. I wasn't expecting a ton coming from Serie A. I just didn't know the player, is what I mean. And he's been great, but his availability's been bad. Him and Partey both, I think, struggle with this, and I do kind of have to question handing him that contract extension, considering he's missed over half his time here too, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't have given him the extension. I wouldn't. I'd have been looking to move him on. Not because I don't think he's a really good player, because I do think he's a really good player. And I said before, like, as much as I don't think Arteta thinks there are Zinchenko games and there are Tomiyasu games, there is logic to that. And I think Tomiyasu is well capable of it ability-wise. But fitness-wise, I just think it's clear that he's not up to it.
Yeah, same. And I think we've done a really good job at getting some of those more injury-prone players out. I mean, we've really only got like kind of the 3 big ones now.
Well, there's 5. There's 5.
Yeah, 5.
But
Yep.
I'm not sure that I would count Emil Smith-Rowe, because I just, he's a bit part player that's probably going to go in the summer. So I don't think we're really counting Smith-Rowe. But Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Partey, and Jesus, you have to worry about them. You have to.
Yeah, and it looks like, we could see 1 or 2 of them, 2 or 3 of them really out the door this summer. But I hope he's fit enough to play, or play some part if he needs to, because I know Zinchenko's he's still kind of coming back as well. I don't think he's done 90. Has he done 90? Maybe once.
No, but Zinchenko never does 90. Like, I don't think Zinchenko should do 90. Do you know what I mean? Like, last night, to me, this was the thing. This is one of the reasons the lineup didn't make sense to me last night. The sensible and obvious thing to do was to start Zinchenko, give him an hour, 65 minutes, maybe even 70 minutes, and then bring Tomiyasu on to finish the game out. It was so obvious. And that was what stunned me so much when I saw the lineup. I couldn't believe the lineup. I really couldn't. I was so shocked by it. All right, let's talk about the penalty. So like I said, Partey's trying to find Jesus with a ball. It's a bad pass. It runs through to Saka. I I don't understand why Saka doesn't take the shot early. I think it's there. But he takes the touch. He goes across Neuer. And he's looking to go down. He wants to go down. He puts his leg out into Neuer. Neuer puts his leg out into him. I don't know. This debate can rage. It depends on how fast you watch the play happen. It depends on the angle that you're looking at. What I will say on this, I am fine with this not being a penalty, but don't you dare give it to Harry Kane when he does it next week. Because this is my problem. Rio Ferdinand and Mike Keown were talking about it after the game, and they were both in agreement that it was a penalty. And one of them said if you had 10 Champions League referees look at that, 9 of them would give the penalty. And I kind of think that's where we're at. I do wonder if that had been in the 70th minute, if it would have been given, because I kind of feel like it might have. I think the fact that it was 4 minutes into injury time played a huge part. And like we said, it was clear all night that the referee did not want to impact the game with big decisions. And you can't impact a game more than giving a penalty 4 minutes into injury time.
Yeah, so it's a penalty for me. But I know even like Righty said it wasn't. I mean, this is it's interesting because this is one of the more contested penalty calls I've seen in a while, and I
don't want that to be a penalty. I don't want that to be a penalty. For me, there's not enough there. Saka initiates the contact. I do not want that to be a penalty.
Both their legs were coming out. They were coming out at the same time. Yeah. He stopped a goal scoring opportunity. That's a pen in the box.
But I don't want that to be a penalty. I don't want that to be a penalty. I don't think there is enough there for it to be a penalty. My problem isn't whether it's a penalty or not. My problem is that 9 times out of 10 that gets given as a penalty, and this is the one time it doesn't. That's my issue. I do not want that to be a penalty. I don't want the one, and this is more a penalty than the one where the forward goes through, smacks it wide of the goalkeeper and out of play, and then goes over the goalkeeper's arms. It's more of a penalty than that, but I do not ever want to see those given. And this is another one where I am quite fine with that not being a penalty, but don't you dare give it the other way.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know we could debate about this. It's fine. It is what it is. It's done now. Let me ask you this though, Gav, because this is what's bothering me about it. Now that we've got a little space, it really surprises me that Saka was looking, because I agree he was looking for contact, but man, I really feel like he's good enough to he could have beat Neuer and shot.
I think he was expecting the contact. He was expecting the penalty, and Neuer came out very, very well and closed that angle down. And you're looking at probably a 50-50 chance, maybe, if you take that first time, second time. Whereas you're looking at a 77% chance from the penalty spot. Or if you go round him, you're looking at an 80% chance of rolling the ball into an empty net, right? So I understand why he tries to go around him. I wish he'd have backed himself with a 50-50 chance rather than going for it. But we've both said it. There's no argument that he's looking for a penalty, 100%. I think most players in that position would look for the penalty. I don't know. I just don't know what more to say about it. I think it's a penalty that gets given more times than not. It's a penalty that I'm quite happy to see not given. Just don't give it against us next time.
Do you think that they're with the Gabriel handball in the box? Do you think that played on the ref's mind at all, or do you think it's just totally unrelated? Or
so I don't think it played on his mind, as in, well, I haven't given Bayern one, so I'm not giving Arsenal one. Again, I'm saying to you that I think this referee had a very good game, but didn't want to make the big decisions, and I think that's what this was. I think this was the biggest decision that you can give 4 minutes into injury time. And I don't think he wanted to give it. I think that is exactly what this was. Had he given that, VAR doesn't overturn it. It doesn't overturn it.
Yeah.
I think had that been in the 70th minute, even if he didn't give it, I think VAR would have given it. I do. I think if that is 70 minutes in, if that game is 2-1 Bayern on 70 minutes, I think the VAR calls him over to the screen and that's a penalty. with a game at 2-2, 4 minutes into injury time, I don't think he or VAR wanted to give that penalty that decides the game. I think that's all it is to it. I don't think it was evening it up. I think it was the same reason that he didn't want to give the red card in the 55th minute. I think it's the same reason he didn't want to give a penalty for a miscommunication. I don't think he felt like he should affect the tie in that way.
Man, it does kind of rub me the wrong way, though. Again, not because this particular call went against us. I just, it does bother me that the referee took it upon himself to decide against rules of the game.
Well, by deciding he's not going to decide the game, he's decided the game.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that does kind of rub me the wrong way, because we do have three, like you said, three big moments in the game that, I mean,
I think he got all three wrong, basically.
Yeah.
I think he got all three wrong.
Yeah.
And now this is one of them things where he did get all three wrong, but of course, if he gets the first one right, the other two don't happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if Kane's off the pitch at that point, then I don't think we get to the point where you're looking at the goal kick happening, because the flow of the game's changed, right? If Bayern are down to 10 men, Kane would also be out of the second leg, which would be a massive deal. But it changes the whole game state. So obviously, you can't just say, well, Bayern have a penalty and then Arsenal score, and then Arsenal have a penalty at the end, and it's 3-3 and Kane's out the second leg. It doesn't work like that, obviously. But I think in hindsight, when you're looking back at him, I think he's got three big decisions on the night, and I think he's got all of them wrong. And I think he's got all of them wrong for the right reasons, if that makes sense. But I do think he's got them wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's over. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Honestly, I agree for the most part that, again, like I said, I don't like the influence, but I'll make my peace with it. I just,
yeah, like I said, I
hope it's better. I hope it's better on Wednesday.
The thing is, I don't want it to be a penalty. Right,
yeah,
I don't. I'm fine with that
from.
not being a penalty. The same as I don't really want the Gabriel one to be a penalty. It's silly. Retake the goal kick is the sensible move. So I've got no problem with those decisions. The red card I have got a problem with. That should have been a red card. But the other two, although he's got them wrong, I don't really have a problem with either of them. Juz, overall now, what's your feelings on the tie? I know you were confident coming in. No away goals, like we said, 2-2 at home. We go there all level. How are you feeling now?
Not as good. I don't feel as comfortable going to Munich now. 2-2. I also was strongly reminded that even though Bayern's struggling in the Bundesliga, that they are still quite good. I like to consider myself positive. I don't think we advance at this point.
So you're not #pray for Bayern in the second leg?
No, I think we really needed to go into the leg or the tie at Munich up at least one, and I don't know. I don't feel good about it.
I'm the opposite. I'm pretty confident going into this second leg. I think we learned an awful lot from Tuesday night. I think Arteta's shown as a manager that he's capable of learning and capable of growth. I think we are a perfect away team. I think we had a bad 25 minutes that cost us dearly on Tuesday night, but we're not out of this tie. And we could have been out of this tie. Make no mistake, we could have been out of this tie. When we were losing our heads and all steaming forward for no real reason, we could have been out of this tie, and we're not. I'm confident going their level. I think we can go there. We can shut the back door. We can play on the break. And I think we can get the goal we need to go through. I really am confident. I think we will still be favourites with the bookies, slightly favourites, but I think we will be favourites there. I saw enough on Tuesday night to say that we are a better team than Bayern. I do think we're a better team than Bayern. I think Bayern are a lot better than people were giving them credit for, but I still do think we're the better team. So I am reasonably confident that we go through. All right, Jazz.
You know what seals it for me personally
Go on.
We'll be wearing the green third kit away instead of the Rave Zebra. We've historically, yeah, I think the green one's been our away Champions League or like away in Europe in cup games.
Oh man, the squiggly line kit has become almost iconic at this point. So I'm kind of bummed about that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, I think if they left it up to the club, that we probably would choose to wear yellow, just for superstitious reasons. But I believe we have to submit beforehand what color our away kit's going to be, and since it doesn't clash, I don't think we'll have a choice.
Well, that is a shame, but I'm not going to let that dampen my optimism. As much as obviously it's a huge factor, I'm not letting it dampen my optimism. The fact that we'll be wearing the green kit, which I like, by the way, but I like it as leisure wear rather than a football kit. But yeah, that is a shame. All right, Jazz, we've done a ton on this game, which deserved a ton, by the way, because like I said, I thought it was a fantastic game. But let's end the first half there. And I'm saying first half, really, I think it's the first 3 quarters, right? Because we're probably only going to do a quarter on the Villa preview because there's nowhere near as much to talk about there as there was to unpack in this one. So we'll go for the break, and I will see you on the other side. Hey guys, just a couple of quick halftime messages for you. Firstly, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us reach a wider audience, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Secondly, we're on all the social media platforms as the NN Pod. We're really trying to build a strong Gooner community. So next time you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, look us up, give us a like or a follow, send us a message, interact with other listeners, or just have a look around. Thanks for listening from myself, Paz and Jazz. We really appreciate it. Hello and welcome back into the Non-Negotiables podcast. This is part 2. Jazz, let's look forward to the weekend now. It's another big game. It's a game that I think we're all going to be pretty confident in, right? I would like to look at the weekend as a whole, first of all. I mean, City play Luton on Saturday, and then Liverpool play Palace in the early kickoff on Sunday. So we're going to be reacting to what they do. It's going to be the last time for a while, actually. It might even be the last time of the entire season that we play last. I think next week, I think we're first, and the week after that, I think we're in the middle. But generally speaking, I think this is the last time that we play last and have to react. I do think that adds a nerviness and an edginess. Do you think this Bayern tie coming up is going to be almost a help? Because I think the Emery coming back narrative and all that is probably going to be drowned out by the fact that we've got Bayern on Wednesday. And as much as this is a trap game in that you could easily look past it, I think at the same time taking some of the pressure off this game might be useful.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I hadn't even really considered the Emery homecoming aspect of it.
Well, we haven't had time to, have we? Let's be fair. Yeah. We've been looking forward to a Champions League quarterfinal. And we've ended that Champions League quarterfinal at half time with absolutely nothing decided either way. So now we're still looking forward to it next week.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good way to put it. And yeah, I do think that you could probably play a drinking game with how many times the commentary is going to mention that we have Bayern in the week.
Yes.
I bet they say it at least a dozen times in the game. And yeah, I think that definitely will drown it out. My biggest concern is just how much the players' heads are going to be on Bayern. Because I think
hopefully the fact that we're looking for the biggest prize sorts that out. Do you know what I mean?
Like a title? Is that what
like we're going for the title. So I think if this was if this game was in November, obviously there wouldn't be as much on the Bayern tie if it was in November. But if it was in November, I could kind of think so. But at this point, we've got 7 games to go, and we know that 7 wins gives us the title. So I think that should focus them.
Yeah, that should definitely help. And Arteta doesn't strike me as the type of manager to let any opposition
100%. I guarantee you, the words Bayern, Munich, Champions, and League are banned from the training ground until Monday. I guarantee it.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right about that. I picture him being pretty authoritarian when it comes to that kind of stuff. Something else to point out too is don't forget Villa has a game tonight against Lille
Yep.
in yep, which I think will help a little bit. They've got some
Absolutely. And if that game ends like ours Bayern did, they have to go there again next week. And
yep.
remember, Emery basically threw the towel in against Man City, right? I mean, he rotated massively. He even took Martinez out of goal. So he rotated massively. Douglas Luiz is suspended for this game because he got a booking 8 minutes into injury time in the last game. He clearly didn't want to play at the Emirates. So I do wonder what Emery will do. You never know with Emery, right? We've been here before with Emery. You have no idea what formation he's going to play. You have no idea what players he's going to put out. There is a chance they make 6 changes for Sunday. As much as they are chasing that Champions League spot, there's a good possibility that it's going down to 5th. And Man United are so shit they ain't catching Villa. Villa are finishing 4th or 5th. So I think there is a big chance Emery rotates. And remember, when we were going for 4th and the Europa League in Emery's season, Emery rotated and fucked the league entirely. So this is purely in Emery's wheelhouse.
Oh yeah, this is his competition, mate. Of the Europa League. I mean, he's won it
they're in the Conference League, right? I don't think they're Europa League. I think they're the Conference League. But
he's not won that one yet.
But your point is valid. Like that is the thing. And Emery doing fucking crazy shit. That's his trademark.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we could have 40 shots on Sunday, and I wouldn't even be surprised. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will say I'm not too worried about this. Like you said, I'm going in confident, though I do have a healthy respect for Villa. I think they've got a good side. Emery's obviously a good manager, but I feel good about this, and I think it'll just be a footnote in the season, pretty non-remarkable, and just kind of a warm up for Bayern.
You think we're going to go strong, Juz? I mean, I can see. Kiwior ain't playing left back. I'll tell you that now. But I wouldn't be surprised to see if he can do it. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tomiyasu come in at right back, and spell Ben White a little bit with Zinchenko at left back. The centre halves obviously aren't going to change. It wouldn't surprise me if Partey came in for Jorginho, and Rice. Rice and Ødegaard are starting, but it wouldn't surprise me if Partey came in for Jorginho. Jesus interests me because, like I said, I'm not convinced that Jesus is capable of starting 2 games in a week at the minute with that knee. He pretty much admitted himself he's got to go in for another operation in the summer. We are really nursing him through. So I don't know. We might just roll out the same front 3 again. Saka's definitely starting. And I think Havertz is definitely starting up front. Although, do you think there's a chance Jesus maybe starts up front with Martinelli on the left and Havertz sits out?
I don't think so. No. I think you're right. I think we'll nurse Jesus. Maybe he gets 15 minutes at the end. I don't think he starts.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way too because I think he's definitely starting at Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
And if that means he has to start on the bench on Sunday, then so be it.
Yeah, and I think if he can do it, I think Tommy for Ben White is a great sub. I'd like to see it, and I think Zinchenko starts left back, same center backs. I don't know about Partey. I get where you're coming from. I think Arteta will be pretty disappointed, so I could kind of see that going both ways. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe a surprise Smith Rowe.
Mo Elneny. Are you picking Mo Elneny?
Oh. I honestly forget he's at the club still. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see somebody. It's not going to be Vieira starting because he hasn't played in like 6 months. But
you think maybe Smith Rowe for Ødegaard?
Maybe. He got that surprise start. Who was it against? Was it Brighton?
He started on the left, didn't he? I think. I think if Ødegaard does come out, and I don't think he will. Like I think taking Ødegaard out of this team I just don't think he can function without Ødegaard. But I think if he did, I do think it would be Fabio Vieira starting, not Smith Rowe on that in that particular position.
It's interesting. I mean, I know. I think Arteta does like Vieira more than Smith Rowe in that, the furthest forward attacking midfield spot. I just think it's been so long since he played. I can't see him starting, but maybe. But yeah, I don't think there'll be a lot of changes. Honestly, I'm thinking maybe 3.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think there needs to be. Like I said, I think Kiwior at left back. I think we've seen the end of that experiment now. I would like to see Ben White get a little bit of time. You know me, I'm not a fan of rotation. I don't believe in it. But Ben White is carrying an injury, clearly.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like knee is so heavily strapped. He's clearly carrying an injury. I think it would be sensible to take him out here if Tomiyasu can go. Now, if Tomiyasu can't give you an hour, then you can't do it. Right? He's completely dependent on that. If Tomiyasu cannot go, you cannot do it. There is no one else. You can't play Cedric in this game. There is no way that you can't. You can't. We need to win this game. You can't do it. I think
Kiwior right back.
Yeah. I just think if Tomiyasu can't give you an hour, then I don't think you can do it. I think you've got to start. You've got to start White. But we'll see. I mean, I don't see many changes. I agree with you. I think 3 max. I think Zinchenko in for Kiwior, Tomiyasu in for White. And I think maybe we'll see Partey in for Jorginho, and I think that will be the only change. I think Jesus is going to start on the bench and come off. I would be happy to see Jesus start up front if he can play Sunday and Wednesday. If he can't, let him sit down because we need him on Wednesday night. Yep.
I'm thinking the same. You got a prediction you want to make, or I don't?
Nope.
We don't really do that. I don't think. Yeah.
Nope. I don't do predictions. We're going to have a lot of the ball. That's the only prediction I'm going to make. We're going to have a lot of the ball. I don't want to make predictions based on Gabriel Jesus' finishing. So I think we'll have a lot of the ball and we'll have a lot of chances. I'm not guaranteeing we're going to take them.
Yeah, I think this is going to be another, not to be overconfident or anything. I think this will be another game week, though, where you see all 3, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, taking 3 points in the top.
I would be surprised if any of us drop points this weekend. I think next week, and we'll come to this after we do the post-Bayern pod, I think next week is a very, very interesting week for Liverpool. Out of the 3, I think next week is Liverpool's big week.
Who is it? Is it Brighton?
I think they've got the 2 away games in a row. It's Fulham. I think it's Fulham and someone else. Let me just pull up their fixtures real quick. I wasn't planning on talking about this now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to catch you off guard or anything. But yeah, Fulham's taken a couple big scalps.
It's Fulham. It's Fulham and Everton away.
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean Merseyside.
So I think next week, and they also follow that up with West Ham away. So they've got 3 away games basically in a row, 3 away games in 6 days, and I think that could be the turning point for their season. But like I said, we'll come to that after we do the Bayern wrap up at the end of next week. So, just thanks a lot for tonight. Sorry, the second half, the preview was short, but there was just so much to get through with the Bayern game. But we will be back at the start of next week when you've finished your dalliance around the Netherlands. And we will review the Villa game and look forward to the Bayern game, which I am already looking forward to. So, Juz, thank you very much, mate, and I will speak to you later on.
All right, sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.